Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael Uslin. There have been a lot of comic book artists over the years who have been called popular. There have been a handful who have been called legendary. And there have been only a very, very few who have been called revolutionary. Neal Adams is a popular, legendary, revolutionary artist of the comic book industry. Ladies and gentlemen, my idol, Neal Adams.
Was a little bold. So I brought the cover in and I inked it, pencil and inked it, put the dialogue in it, brought it into Julie, and he went like this, "Wah! You can't do this. Get out of my office. You can't do this. Are you insane? It's against the, we can't do this." So we were being run at that time by Kinney Corporation, who was an undertaking establishment, and they had chauffeured limousines or some crap like that. And I took it down the hall and I took it to them. Even they went like this. Carmine paused a minute before he did. He went, "Can we do this?" No, Carmine. Can't do it. So I talked to Julie and he said, "Why did you do this? Why did you do this?" I said, "To make it happen." He said, "Well, we're not going to do it." I said, "Well, there's the cover." He said, "We're not going to do this. I'm telling you, we're not going to." I said, "Well, there's the cover. What are you going to do with it?" "Yeah, get out of my office." So we had an adventure. Denny and I and Julie Schwartz had one of the greatest adventures in our lives doing these stories. In the end, the sales weren't that great, which is a lie. Because one of the things you don't know about the comic book business is the local national distributors sold the comic books out of the back of the stores to the same dealers that are upstairs now, and to the same comic book store owners. And so what happened in those days was Jim Steranko's books, my books, Barry Smith's books, all those books that you hear about didn't sell any better than the rest of the comics because fan dealers would buy them out of the back of the distributors. So I go into Julie's office and I say, "Julie, I want to do Batman." And Julie says, "Actually," he said, "get the fuck out of my office." But somehow things had changed. The darkness had come. And the hallways were dark and there were little spotlights. And as I turned a corner down at the end of the hall went dark, and at the end of the hall was a dark figure being lit from the side, holding white paper in his hand like this. And it looked sort of like Julie Schwartz. And he said, "Adams." "Hi, Julie." He said, "What's this?" "Letters?" He said, "Letters from people who are saying, how come the only Batman at DC Comics isn't brave and bold?" So I went over to Marvel, and they were very nice to me because I was doing Deadman at the time. And I asked to see Stan Lee, and I said, "I'd like to do a comic book. I'd like to do it in the Marvel style," because Jim Steranko had visited me at DC and said, "You know how they do it at Marvel? You write the story, Stan puts in the words." "Really? That's cool. I like that." So I went over to see Stan. Stan brought me in, and he said, "Okay, what do you want to do?" I said, "What do you have?" He said, "You can do anything." I said, "Why are you saying I can do anything?" He said, "Because everybody here at Marvel, the only comic book we read is Deadman from DC." Got it. Okay. What's your worst selling title? Stan said, "Well, our worst selling title is X-Men. We're going to cancel it in 2 issues. Our worst selling title is X-Men. We're going to cancel it in 2 issues. So from my point of view, we're storytellers. So when people try to make comic books a high art, and a lot of people try to make it a high art, I pretty much am very reluctant to go along with this because I think that we're storytellers, that we're as good as the stories we tell. And to think of us as artists, I know that there's some people who think it's art, and I appreciate that, but to me, it's storytelling. But it's starting to even out. Things are starting to move forward. But all I really did was say what had to be said. And after I said it, I stuck to it. Maybe that's, I mean, if you could say, yeah, Neal did something, I stuck to it. Nobody could push me off of it. And nobody could get to me, because I did advertising. I was either going to do the comic books and advertising, or I was just going to do advertising. So I had more weapons to deal. And because I had more weapons, I had the responsibility, therefore, to deal. And so I did. That was my job. If anybody asks you why Neal did it, just say it was his job. That's all.
It might have been his responsibility, but with responsibility comes great power.
Ooh. Ooh. You didn't think you'd come in here and learn this today, did you?